Every day I talk to women who have a version of the same question. They say, I did everything I was supposed to do. So why doesn't life feel the way I thought it would feel? They worked hard, they built the career, they raised the children, they took care of the family, they handled all the responsibilities, and their life looks really successful from the outside. And yet, something feels like it's missing. Conversation I had this week made me realize why. Because I think many of us were sold a bargain that promised that if we're good enough and responsible enough and selfless enough and useful enough, eventually we'll feel fulfilled. We'll feel alive. But what if that's not true? What if the payoff never comes because the bargain itself is flawed? That's what we're talking about today. So before we jump into the conversation, I want to give you a little context. As earlier this week, I posted a reel on Instagram that said, basically, if you're good enough, useful enough, pretty enough, selfless enough, easy enough, if you take care of everyone else, make yourself palatable and stay desirable, but not too desirable. If you don't need too much, don't want too loudly, don't become inconvenient, then you'll be loved, you'll be safe, you'll be happy. And I'm sorry, but no, that is a terrible bargain. That's basically what the reel said. And it's up on my Instagram if you want to go check it out and see the full thing. Now, most of the responses I got to this reel were women saying some version of, yes, this is exactly how I feel. But one conversation took an interesting turn. A man in his 70s, I assume, based on what he shared, he started pushing back. And the more I read his comments, the more I realized that he was articulating something that I think many of us inherited without ever consciously examining it. And it makes all the difference. It's it's the underpinning of why we are the way we are and we feel the way we feel. So here are a few excerpts to give you some flavor of what I'm talking about. So in one, he says, doesn't a woman become alive when growing children? Doesn't a woman achieve aliveness when she cares for a successful family, career, or husband? So his argument starts with the idea that me pushing aliveness on women is somehow bad advice. It's the wrong direction, that I should be pushing them towards a life of service and that their aliveness should come from growing children, et cetera, et cetera. Later, he writes, those four service components are extremely valuable to society and to women because they originate from love. And the service components are children, family, marriage, and career. And then he said women can build on top of the aliveness created during their first 50 years of service. Now, before we go any further, I want to be very clear. Of course, a woman can feel deeply alive through motherhood, marriage, family, work, caregiving, and contribution, like through service. Yes, I never said otherwise. What caught my attention was something else. Every example of female aliveness that he offered was about what a woman does for someone else, right? Children, family, career, husband. And suddenly I realized we weren't actually debating women's aliveness or empowerment or women at all. We were debating the bargain itself. The belief that fulfillment comes through service, that if you contribute enough, if you sacrifice enough, if you take care of enough people, eventually you'll arrive at the life you want. So I sent that conversation to Barbara. She watched the reel, she read it, I read it, and what you're about to hear is the conversation that followed. Enjoy. Is it like there's two ways people see life? One is life is suffering, it's service, it's duty, it's obligation, and you do your best. And if you happen to get to have a good time along the way, or you get some pleasure, or you get some love, or great, enjoy. But the primary purpose of life is not to express yourself. It's not to be as alive as possible. What does that even mean? That's selfish, right? That is a view that we've held for a long time as a society, and it's embedded in so much of modern day culture. But there's a different view that has come up and that keeps coming up, and it's getting more momentum, and that is no. The actual purpose of being alive is to be the youest you that you can be, right? To express yourself, to experience things, to take the risks, to squeeze all the juice out of the lemon. And those are two entirely different metrics by which to measure if your life has been a success, right? Because if I'm measuring my life by his metric of, have I performed my duty enough? Have I been in service? Have I suffered sufficiently? You might look at my life and say, nope, not yet. So you don't get to have all the good things. Where if you look at by my metric, I'm a raging fucking success. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that distinction is what few of us actually look at, because it's so beneath the surface, and yet it's pushing us in a different direction. I mean, it's true for me and what I was bringing up before. Like, I couldn't see that I had internalized patriarchy enough to be like, well, that's not logical. I can't just do something because my gut told me or because pussy wants it. Like, that's irresponsible. I can't just go spend an hour stripping from myself in front of the mirror in the middle of my workday. I've got emails to send. I got a business to run. I got to be productive, right? Like, that is, it's in my nervous system. I can like sit here all day and be like, no, no, I'm going to do pleasure practice. But there's this part of me that's like, but you haven't sent an email in 5 days. Ah, you know?
See, like, yeah, I do. And like, here's where I'm coming from, because it's not either or. Because I would say, if I was me, I would say it is selfish, and I'm proud of that, and I own that, because I've been selfless, and look at where it's got me. And I think this concept of like, what's wrong with being selfish? If I don't take care of me, if I don't feed myself, basic survival, if I don't make sure I get fed, if I don't like brush my teeth, if I don't get sleep, like, I'm dying. I am zero help to anyone else. Zero. So, like, there is selfishness. Everyone should be selfish, because when you are, know how to really take care of yourself. And that's what pleasure is. It's a next level, it's a higher quality of life. It's like, I'm taking care of myself so much so I've got more units of power. I can give more away. It's not about pleasure to like just be hoarding, staying inside and stroking my pussy all day. But if that's what you want to do, awesome, because that's rippling out anyway, because it is. And I just know that from my feminine intuition. But it's like, it's about both. It's about, I have to write this email, but also I have the desire to go stroke my pussy for an hour. So I'm going to be intentional, and I'm going to go and like stroke my pussy for an hour so that I write the best fucking email ever, not some mediocre, like, the email. So when I go outside and I encounter men like this, I could be like, you're right, I am selfish. Thank you. I do. Thank you so much for noticing. I take care of me, because you know what? Without that conversation, if a man like that saw me or saw you, he would be like, they're attractive. They take care of themselves. They look good. Right? It's that he would be into that. That man also feels like women should look a certain way. They should behave a certain way, right? Isn't that selfish too? Right? Because women, when we take time, it's like we should take time to take care of ourselves. Not too much time, right? What's too much time, right? Like, I am the one like thinking about that. So it's like that mindset. It's like he wants to live a life of like where he's like, he's proud of his achievements. And that type of person is like, I'm proud. I think you have to live life this one way. And
Yeah,
if you
well,
don't live it by my way,
right.
then I'm gonna make you wrong.
Right.
I'm
Well,
gonna
so
make
so there's two things in there that I really want to dig deeper into, because one is the last thing you said, that there's one right way, right? Like the argument we were having on Instagram was started with his way was right, my way was wrong. And I was like, no, my way is right, your way is wrong, right? Like, it
right.
started there. And it was like as we got deeper that I started to see the layers underneath. He revealed in the words he used how he saw the whole world, not just women, not
Yeah,
patriarchy, but like life itself. And when you come from a place of, there is this right way, it is to be in service to others, which I think is also espoused and promoted and encouraged by a lot of like traditional religious structures in society, right? It's all about that. It's so indoctrinated, that idea that, yeah, taking an hour to stroke your pussy in the middle of the day is outrageous and shameful and wrong. And we get polarized, like this is right and this is wrong. But the other thing in there is what you said about selfishness is something you own and you're proud of. And I think that's a really interesting topic to talk about, because that word is thrown at us as a criticism and an insult all the time. Like, how many times someone
It's
said to you, well, you're being selfish. And to
it's
your point,
weaponized. It's
yeah, it's
weaponized.
totally weaponized. But to your point, I think what you're saying, and I believe this also, is that if we all, maybe were all of us were a little bit more selfish for starters, everyone would actually be a lot happier, because we're so busy running around trying to be of service, please this person,
Right.
perform for that one, fulfill this role, do this obligation, suffer sufficiently so that we don't feel guilty getting ours, right? That we set up this system that requires us to demonize selfishness and look at that as a flaw, and then get mad that we're not getting payback. But like, hey, if you actually just are a little bit selfish, if you put your oxygen mask on first, if you actually love yourself, oh my god,
Your
imagine,
oxygen mask burn. That's the whole fucking
right?
point. That was my whole point. You cannot, like, I know it's always so funny. Like, I watch parents on the plane. It's always they get that cringe of like when they say that, and I get the cringe for them of like, you have to do that first. And it's like that is ingrained, because if something goes wrong, you just fucked yourself and your kid. Who better to know that than a vet? The warrior is so interesting, because a warrior mindset is literally, who's the most selfish? The most selfish, who will teach you the best thing about selfishness, is a warrior. Why is a warrior the most selfish? Because when they are out on the battlefield fighting, they cannot stop for a second to look at anything else, to look at their comrade, to maybe help their comrade, because then they become vulnerable and they get killed. The most selfish people are, that's what he's doing. He's like, like, that is the most selfish. The warrior is the most selfish. The warrior archetype, because they'll die because they didn't put the oxygen mask on first. They cannot stop being in their own field
Yeah.
until every single enemy is done. And I mean, you've seen it in movies,
Yeah.
because they can't stop fighting. And look, the minute somebody looks around and they're fighting in a battle, that's
Yeah.
it. Somebody
Yeah.
else comes in and gets them with the sword. And what we're taught to do is be in this battle and look everywhere else.
Yeah, it's like, so the bargain, right? And this is what I talked about in the fucking reel itself that sparked this whole thing. The
Yeah.
bargain is, if you are good, if you are of service, if you are easy to be with, you're not difficult, you're not too demanding, you are humble, you comply with the rules, you take care of everyone else, you're not selfish, right? If you play by the rules,
Right.
then you will be rewarded, and the reward will be you will get to be a mother, you'll get to be a wife, someone will take care of you, quote unquote, at least financially, because actually you're still taking care of all the things, but like,
Right.
you'll be financially provided for, you'll have a roof over your head. And not too long ago, there was a lot more that was provided for us, because as women, we didn't have the right to own property, for example, or vote, or have our own business, or have our own money. Even everything was through the husband. So it was true in the sense that, like, if I do these things, those things will be provided for me. That was the bargain. And for men, the bargain was like, well, you go out and you work and you provide for your family, and then you get to have a wife who cooks and cleans and takes care of your children and provides her body for your pleasure. That was the arrangement. But we're in 2026, and women have other options. And frankly, so do men. The world has shifted. There's so much more consciousness, although there's a long way to go. And I think that we're still playing by those rules, myself included, even though I know better, because it's so ingrained and embedded. And so, like, what if instead the message was, the new rules, the new bargain was, you take care of yourself. Your job is to take really good care of yourself, to love yourself like you're precious, like your most precious possession, to honor yourself that way, to take the time to take care of your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial health and well-being. And then once those things are kind of at a solid foundation, now you can enrich your life with a relationship, perhaps with a romantic partner. Perhaps you want to have children or you want to get married, right? And like now that stuff becomes additive, and now that becomes ways to be even more alive and to expand your capacity for love and pleasure and intimacy and all that stuff. Imagine what life would be like. Imagine what the world would be like. Imagine how many fewer pills we'd be taking because we would not be starting off from this like, if I do this, someone else will provide it for me. We're providing it for ourselves from the beginning. That's what I'm trying to say here. That's what I'm trying to like reveal and surface, that like the bargain we've been given, it's like we've been working really hard to achieve the wrong goal. Like we misunderstood the
Yeah,
assignment.
yeah.
Now the
No, we
assignment
didn't
is not.
misunderstand. No, we did not misunderstand the assignment.
Yeah.
That was part of the design. So
Yeah.
we stay unconscious
Right.
and we play their game. Religion is a business. I am constantly reminding people of that. It's like like a while back I had clients being like, but I went to the rabbi and he said this. And I'm like, the rabbi gets paid, right? You know how he gets paid? How much you donate last year to the synagogue? The most genius business of all time, business model of all time, is creating a religious experience and saying, make a donation. So it makes it feel like I'm not actually paying them. I'm giving away money for donation. But then I look at these like leaders who are wearing Ferragamo shoes and Ferragamo belts. Am I saying it's wrong? No. But they're not living the low life. There is the church
Yeah.
used to have the most money, like ever. Nobody
Yeah.
ever really looks at like, wait, and this is not a bashing of religion either, but the design was, if we can keep you brainwashed, just like this dude, if we can keep you feeling like you need to be selfless, you're going to go out and make that money and give us the money.
Yeah.
While we're sitting here doing all kinds of crazy immoral stuff in the background, as we've seen in so many stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was part of the design. It was part of the design always and forever. And that is part of why it's so hard to A, notice it, B, come to terms with it, C, interrupt it. Because buying into that is what kept us safe,
Yeah.
especially women.
Yeah.
We needed to conform because if we didn't, we'd be dead.
Yes.
So our kids would be also, their lives would be threatened. So it was like, okay, I'm going to buy into it. And now it's so deeply generationally in the DNA that the concept of, oh my God, I'm being selfish. They've learned that's the trick. They've learned to turn it around on us. What's happening with it's the whole thing. It's all the
Well,
same shit.
and they're doing it to themselves too. Because like, listen to some of the language,
100%.
the specific language he uses, right? I think is so telling. Like he says, doesn't a woman achieve aliveness when she cares for a successful family or career or husband? Interesting that he put career in there. I don't think he meant to. I think he meant husband's career. I think you are pushing divorce and destruction of the family. Or he says, your advice to women is to chase being alive is a fraud. You want women to divorce and destroy their families. So it's this
That's
perspective.
not what you said.
No, it's not what I said, but what it is revealing is he sees his own journey as like, I fathered 5 children and worked till I was 73 years old to support that family. I did my job. I fulfilled my role. I did my duty. You're telling women not to fulfill their duty, and their duty is to do this. And in none of this is aliveness a factor, because I don't think he felt aliveness in this either. He was just as much a victim of the patriarchy as you or I, other than the fact that he's a man, so he had other benefits, right? Like the structure's different, but ultimately he's saying the same thing. I didn't feel alive. I fathered 5 children and worked for 73 years. What are you talking about aliveness? Life isn't about aliveness.
That's the
Life is
thing.
about suffering, you know? It's
Right. Which is like, it's like, yeah, like it's, but the thing is like, my point is, it shouldn't be separate. If a woman wants to do have 5 kids and stay home, but also that brings her aliveness, that like actually she's turned on by that, that brings her pleasure, go forth.
yeah.
I will support you. It's not about one or the other. It's this, there's a limited thinking and it's very conditional, and that's the problem. It's like, I'm not saying like, don't get a career and just do pleasure all day. I'm saying do pleasure and funnel it, like put it into, use it as fuel to take your career higher. Like it's not about like just being in pleasure all day and then that's it. Forget the rest of the world, forget my family, for fuck everyone else. Let's get divorced. I mean, that's completely insane. Like
Yeah.
it's about like I could do life with a mentality and attitude and come from of suffering. I did. I come from people who are like Olympic champions at that. And you know what? I was depressed and like on suicide watch
Yeah.
and pills and all of the things and anxiety, it's like all of that. Or then I flipped the script and was like, wait, there is that life force in me that I was never taught, because from that place, and what threatens men like this is that I might make a decision of like, I don't want to cook dinner tonight. And he's expecting dinner,
Yeah.
and like these are the things of like, we might make these small choices that are so threatening that don't conform to the exact
Yeah.
rules and
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. And it's like, yeah, but if you gave it a shot and gave it a second and actually had a woman in your life that actually you might actually
Yeah. And let me be explicit for anyone that's like watched a prior episode or seen our stuff on Instagram and you're like, "No, Marta, I think you actually are saying get divorced." Like because my story involves divorce, like, right? So oftentimes when I talk about my story, I talk about how that was a turning point for me. When I left that marriage and started this season, things got really fucking good. That's not to say that my marriage was never good. I'm just saying at the point at which I left, it was no longer working for anyone in the family.
Yeah, and this gave you this is the thing, and this is the thing that knowing Marta, and the same thing happened with me in my relationship, and I will say this, her relationship was in a place that it was like, that's it, this isn't working, we can't make it work. And the pleasure, the aliveness actually gave her the strength and the power to make change. What most people do is they stick it out and hate each other and are resentful, and it gets really bad for them and it gets really bad for the kids, and then someone gets cancer and dies, and like that's the end of the story. And she decided to say, no, I'm not gonna, I have enough power now, and I have enough, I'm brave enough, because that's what happens when you get connected to the life force energy. You get brave enough, you start trusting yourself so much more that you're like, I'm going to take this risk. I know this is wild and crazy. And we said we're going to be married for X amount of time and we're going to do this, but it sucks. You're not happy. I'm not happy. We can't figure this out. So we're going to go and live our lives and be happy with. And now you are in another partnership. It's not like you're running around like, like divorced and like, fucking the world and like, going after this guy's 5 kids. You know what I mean? It's like you just made a decision of like, it can be better. I can have extraordinary. And that's the difference. And the problem is people like this are so disconnected of like, they've never even, they can't even imagine extraordinary. They haven't even tasted extraordinary. They're so like close to extraordinary, their mind can't even go to, like, they have no idea what that is. They're
Yeah.
like, and that's the saddest thing, and I always say it, like, if hetero men, especially white men, if hetero white men actually for 5 seconds were like, I'm fucked up by the patriarchy too, right? Like, I'm fucked up by it too. That would be the unlock for them to have lives that are beyond. Because I am sure this type of man, he probably doesn't even remember like what desire was when he was a kid. Like, you know, they have dreams too, these men, but then they follow these paths where they're constantly are approved of and like keep going, and they're seeking the approval, and now the approval from external sources who are miserable is what fuels them, versus like, wait, my own, like being like turned high off my own supply is what fuels me. Like he doesn't, there's no, it's a totally disconnected thing. It's like I like, it's like an irrational conversation at this point. This person is like, you're
Yeah.
too old, like, you know, and I'm open and available to talk to people like that, but I'm like, you're so set in your ways, it's like the muscle that's atrophied, that you have no space for aliveness. So I'm gonna have to show it to you, and I can't do that on Instagram because what we're talking about is a lived experience.
Yeah.
It's like, and it allows, yeah, and it's like the same thing with my relationship too. I left a relationship that was great because I wanted more. This guy would probably slice me. I'd probably be on the guillotine.
Oh yeah,
You
for sure.
know,
You'll
like,
be in trouble.
yeah, because it would be like, wait, you were with a good man who loved you. And it's like, yeah, I was, but I wanted more. I wanted to expand. And that is actually harder to do than leaving a relationship with someone where it's pain. It's like, it's not good, you
No,
know?
that's like it's a revolutionary act what you did. I mean, I think what I did was a revolutionary act to
Yeah.
leave marriage after, 26,
Yeah.
27 other like that feels like I feel like resting is a fucking revolutionary act because we're so
It
hell bent on
totally,
bringing
totally telling a woman to like take a beat and like nap for 20 minutes or don't do anything, they can't do it. Like
so I understand why posts like that can be so polarizing and triggering. And it's interesting to me, like most of the comments were from women. Most of my audience is female, and most of them were like, "Yes, absolutely, I agree," whatever. And then I get into this conversation, and I think what you said before about if hetero men also could if hetero men could realize what their flavor of internalized patriarchy is, if they could see that like while they've benefited from some of its privileges, whether they participated in it actively or not, right? Even if they're like good men who call their buddies on their misogyny and who would never um in any way infringe on a woman's personal space, right? Let's say they're doing all that stuff right, but they're still growing up in a culture where the biggest insults that you can lay on a male is stop being a pussy. Like, don't be, you're being such a girl. Why are you so emotional and irrational, right? Like everything that is associated with the feminine is the worst thing you could be if
Yeah.
you're in a male
Yeah.
body. And then we expect them to be like respectful and to love and honor the feminine. Of course they don't. And they don't even see it. And it's hampering them because now I watch like, we're seeing it now with all the stuff around, women rejecting men, like the 4B movement in Korea, and all these different ways that men feel like, wait a minute, I'm a good guy. I didn't do any of that stuff. Why is this happening? It's because of the same thing that we're talking about. It's this underlying set of rules that none of us agreed to consciously, but we are all agreeing to unconsciously all the fucking time. And it's making us miserable, you know?
Yeah, well, it's not making me miserable because I'm not agreeing to
Exactly,
it.
exactly, and neither are the women who are playing with us, the sensual sisterhood, who come to premium, right? Like this is one of the reasons why I keep trying to say that the big gift in the sensual sisterhood is not it's not just that there's community. It's not just that we share practices or tools or tips or that we do pleasure practices together. It's that there exists a space, a room in this world that you can walk into today and play by the rules we're talking about here. Not the rules that the rest of the world is, but like where we encourage you to be fucking selfish for 5 minutes, where we encourage you to be a hot mess. Show up completely unkempt. Show up with your curlers on and your mascara running and snot coming out of your nose because something just happened that made you unravel. Great, bring it. Bring it. Feel it, right? Like where else can you do these things? Where else do you get celebrated for bragging about putting your own oxygen mask on first? I There are so few rooms like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
it,
yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for rooms like that, if it wasn't for having sisters like you that I can have these fucking conversations with, that I can bring like my own internalized misogyny and be like, "Oh my God, I think this is fucking with me." And you're like, "It is," and we can, by paying attention to it, unravel it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I'm thinking.
So come be selfish with us and see what happens when we're selfish. And by the way, I mean, if you think you're not being selfish when you're like pretending service, you're
Right.
just being selfish to your ego, not your soul.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Like, if that dude does not, he is selfish in the way that I'm going to do whatever I can to get that external approval and validation. That is a form of selfishness.
Yeah, it's true. It's
It's
true.
the stoic mind. Yeah, it's like, I'm here to just be like, and you know what? Good for you. Because it's not about, it's not about either way. It's about, what if we just didn't make selfish being wrong and we just said, hey, actually, there's proven studies, so many so that every airline globally says, put the oxygen mask on first.
Yeah. It's
If
fucking science, people.
science says be selfish, like do it for you first, because that's actually what's going to make the difference. It's a it's a life giving and life changing thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe, maybe you could,
absolutely.
maybe you could give it a shot. Maybe.
For real, for real. Yeah, and so, like, my parting message, I think, like, if I was to wrap this expansive episode up with a bow, it's like 2 things. 1, you can't heal in an environment that keeps rewarding the things that's hurting you, right? Like, that's why I think so many women are stuck in this cycle of, like, I feel numb, like, my life looks good on paper. On paper, I should be over the moon. I have all the things I thought I wanted. Why do I feel dead inside? Why do I feel like half alive, right? It's because you're still living in an environment that is rewarding you for abandoning yourself, rewarding you for choosing duty and obligation and suffering before you choose yourself, before you choose pleasure, before you choose like your fucking truth. You're stifling that down, like, so you need to change that environment. And then the other thing is that, like, and maybe this is the biggest overarching thing, I don't believe that the point of life is to be as useful as possible. I don't believe the point of life is to be as selfless as possible. In fact, I think that the point of life is to be as alive as possible. And that requires some fucking selfishness. And selfishness is not a bad word. It's just a word for taking good care of yourself, for paying attention to yourself, for loving yourself, for having value over yourself. And we've softened it with words like self-care and self-love. And even those are fucking dicey, right? And controversial. So let's just like own it. Just be like, I am selfish and that benefits you too, by the way. Yeah. That's it. And if you want to be in a room with women who espouse this and are living it and are proof of it, you know where to find us. The link's in the show notes. All right. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week. Mwah!